deep down in that burrow, isn't he? It's sort of hard to retrieve yourself out of that.
Well, that interview sparked widespread backlash, with a new poll revealing a majority of Brits want to see Harry stripped of his HRH title. For more, we're joined by royal expert.
All about trust. They excluded Meghan Markle from the Sandringham summit because they were afraid she would secretly record
working royals and senior members of the royal family, because it denotes a level of I guess, respect in the public, and also it's not a financial thing. Working royals do not profit. They do not use their names to make.
Juice Elizabeth's birth. She's dancing in front of the camera. Oh God, it looks like a lap dancing club with pregnant women. He's also dancing in front of the camera. She's got a black dress on. She's literally holding her bump and twerking, and she's put this on social media.
It started like any other media appearance. But this time, Prince Harry said a little too much, and the reaction was instant. A major poll revealed that most Brits now believe he should be stripped of his HRH title altogether. That alone would have been a big enough story. But just as critics were firing off their usual opinions, a second wave of backlash hit, and it landed squarely on Meghan. Suddenly, clips began circulating. Her dancing online, visibly pregnant, striking poses that some called odd, others called staged. Royal commentators didn't hold back. One even compared the scene to a nightclub. What should have been a personal moment turned into fuel for something much bigger: renewed suspicions about her pregnancy. And just like that, what was once labeled as online conspiracy started bubbling up again, but this time in front of a much larger audience. And this time, insiders weren't staying silent. Next, when whispers turn into statements and the palace decides it's done keeping secrets. For years, the wildest theories about Meghan's pregnancy lived in dusty corners of the internet. But recently, those theories found new life and new voices. The most unsettling part? They're no longer coming from bloggers or anonymous trolls. They're being echoed by people with actual connections to the palace. Trusted insiders, advisors, even ex-staffers have started speaking out, not in full interviews, but in quiet, deliberate ways. What they're saying is bold: that Archie's birth wasn't just private, it was staged. They're claiming that the entire pregnancy, from bump to birth, was a performance designed for the cameras. No more tiptoeing, no more dancing around it. The word cover-up is now being used openly. It's the kind of claim that used to be dismissed with a laugh. But now, it's gaining traction in places that matter. And if true, it could reshape everything we thought we knew about Meghan and Harry's royal exit. Red flags we missed at the time, but now seem impossible to ignore. Even people who supported Meghan from day one admit her pregnancy didn't follow the usual royal script. There were no official steps outside the hospital, no proud photo with doctors, no detailed birth bulletin like Kate had. The due date kept shifting, and oddly, no royal gynecologist was ever named. Then came the photos. One day, the bump sat high. Another day, it looked deflated. In one clip, the belly seemed to fold completely as she sat down, something real pregnancies don't usually do. The internet caught on fast with side-by-sides, slow-motion clips, and zoom-ins going viral. At the time, anyone asking questions was shut down as cruel or even discriminatory. But now, those early doubts are being taken seriously. What seemed like trolling suddenly looks like evidence. And the more you rewatch those old clips, the harder it gets to ignore what's right in front of your eyes. How Meghan and Harry used silence not to hide, but to build a global brand. Instead of addressing rumors, Meghan and Harry leaned into silence and weaponized it. The media was labeled as aggressive. The palace was painted as cold. And slowly, the world started buying into a narrative that the couple was being hunted, mistreated, and pushed out. That silence turned into their power. Their brand wasn't just royal, it was righteous. Meghan wasn't just a duchess, she was a mother under siege. Harry wasn't just a prince, he was a protector. That image was used across every interview, documentary, and deal. But now, with palace insiders speaking out, the silence feels different. Less like privacy, more like strategy. If Meghan wasn't actually pregnant, then that entire narrative, the foundation of their brand, was based on something false. And if that's the case, what else have they kept hidden? what insiders now claim Meghan wore during the entire pregnancy, and why no one said a word. This is where it gets truly wild. Sources close to the palace now allege that Meghan wore a prosthetic bump during every public appearance while claiming to be pregnant. A Moonbump, they call it. An adjustable silicone accessory used in film and TV. Why? To stage a perfect royal pregnancy without the risks or scrutiny of a real one. According to these sources, the palace knew, and instead of confronting it, they covered it up. For the monarchy, for Queen Elizabeth, and even for Harry. The idea was to protect the crown from another media firestorm. But now that Meghan and Harry have gone fully off script, taking aim at Charles, William, and Kate, the palace has no reason to keep shielding them. This isn't just about optics anymore. It's about restoring public trust, and that means exposing what was once buried. Why this isn't just scandal, it's a potential constitutional crisis. This goes far beyond personal privacy. If Meghan used a surrogate and passed it off as a natural birth, it would violate centuries of royal tradition, rules that exist for a reason. Royal births aren't just family moments, they're constitutional events. Every step, from hospital details to doctor sign-offs, is documented to preserve the integrity of the bloodline. That process was bypassed. No official record, no confirmation by the Queen's medical staff, and no customary hospital appearance. If a surrogate was involved and hidden, Archie's place in the royal line may not even be valid. That sounds dramatic, but in the monarchy, lineage equals legitimacy. And when that's questioned, the institution itself is shaken. This isn't just about bending rules. It's about rewriting them, and doing it in secret. That's why the palace is reportedly going back through documents, travel records, and even private medical logs. How Meghan and Harry's victim image is starting to collapse under its own weight. For years, Meghan and Harry thrived off a public image built on victimhood. Every media deal, every streaming doc, every headline leaned into the same theme: the misunderstood couple who walked away for peace. And at the center of that emotional appeal? Archie. He symbolized everything: protection, love, legacy. But now, with these pregnancy questions resurfacing, it's starting to look less like pain and more like planning. Insiders are saying this wasn't an escape. It was a strategy. A carefully designed brand using parenthood and palace friction to gain global clout. And if that's true, it worked. For a while. But now the illusion is cracking. Sympathy has turned to suspicion. People are no longer asking, why did they leave? They're asking, what were they hiding? And that shift in tone changes everything. Staffers break their silence and say something always felt off. The people closest to Meghan during her pregnancy are finally talking, and their stories are raising serious red flags. Former aides say there was never any sign of a nursery being prepared. Medical details were locked down. Questions weren't just discouraged, they were shut down completely. Staff were told not to discuss anything about the pregnancy, even behind closed doors. One former employee described the whole thing as a stage show, not a real maternity journey. There were no doctor visits, no cravings, no signs of the usual chaos that surrounds a real pregnancy. And this wasn't coming from paparazzi or gossip sites. It was coming from people in the same room as Meghan. If even half of what they're saying is true, it suggests an enormous, deliberate performance designed to mislead everyone, including the family. What Harry knew, and when he knew it. Now the spotlight shifts to Prince Harry. Because if Meghan really used a fake bump, the biggest question isn't why, it's who knew. Was Harry a willing partner in the cover-up? Or was he misled like the rest of us? Some insiders believe he was complicit, helping build the narrative of a young couple escaping pressure to protect their child. Others say he was in love and blinded by loyalty, but either way, it changes the story. If he helped stage a fake pregnancy, it's a betrayal of public trust. If he didn't know, it raises disturbing questions about how much power Meghan had over him, and what else he might have been kept in the dark about. Either scenario paints a much darker picture of their relationship than the fairy tale they once sold. And the palace? They're reportedly furious. Why the royal family is done playing nice? The palace has always prided itself on discretion. But make no mistake, the gloves are off. No official statement has been released, But the silence is louder than words. Senior royals are leaking. Staff are talking. Protection is gone. Meghan and Harry are now seen as outsiders, no longer part of the institution, no longer under its shield. And the timing isn't accidental. With Queen Elizabeth gone, the monarchy is in transition. Charles and William are laser-focused on preserving what's left of the royal reputation, and that means cutting ties. What was once fear of scandal has turned into something colder: preservation. Meghan and Harry aren't just on their own. They're being pushed out, not physically, but symbolically, strategically, and permanently. Meghan and Harry's shocking pivot, back toward the royals. Here's the twist no one saw coming. After years of slamming the royal family, Meghan and Harry are now trying to place their children, Archie and Lilibet, back into royal roles. Seriously. They want them to hold titles, take part in ceremonies, and be recognized as legitimate royal figures. It's a complete U-turn from everything they've said. They fled the institution. They mocked it. They called it toxic. But now, when it's convenient, they want back in, through their kids. And the palace? They're not impressed. Insiders say it reeks of desperation. Not love, not legacy, strategy. Because if Archie wasn't born the way we were told, and if the proper protocols weren't followed, then his eligibility is still up in the air. And Meghan and Harry pushing for royal perks while dodging royal rules? That's not going over well at all. Next, why this power move might actually backfire. To many inside the palace, this isn't about family anymore. It's about leverage. Meghan and Harry want to stay relevant. But instead of doing it through duty, they're trying to do it through narrative. And now that their story as victims is fading, they're shifting gears. Their kids are now front and center, name-dropped in speeches, branded into businesses, mentioned in deals. But royal roles aren't PR tools. They're inherited positions, steeped in protocol. You can't bash the system, flee the country, then try to milk that same system for prestige. The palace knows it. The public sees it. And even loyal fans are beginning to question the game. It's a bold move. But it may cost them more than they expected. The consequences of bending royal tradition too far. The monarchy isn't just a family, it's a structure. And everything, from how titles are given to how heirs are named, runs on precedent. If Meghan and Harry manage to push their children into official roles after ignoring every rule, what happens next? What does that say to other royals? To the British public who still helps fund this institution? It's a dangerous path. Because once you bend tradition for convenience, it stops being tradition. It becomes chaos. That's why the palace is taking this seriously. They're protecting more than names. They're guarding the very core of the monarchy. And Meghan and Harry, by playing both sides, are being seen as a direct threat to that foundation. As questions pile up, the palace digs deeper. Behind the scenes, the palace is moving. Not with loud press statements, but with purpose. Records are being reviewed, timelines examined, even private travel logs and staff reports are being pulled. This isn't a witch hunt, it's damage control. If there's any truth to the claims of a fake pregnancy or hidden surrogate, they need answers. Fast? Because public opinion is turning. Fast? The longer they wait, the worse the damage becomes. And now, with people talking and clips resurfacing, they can't afford to ignore it anymore. Meghan and Harry may have thought the past was buried. But the palace? They're digging it up. And if they find what they think they'll find, this could be the most devastating scandal to hit the royal family in modern history. So here we are, caught between what was said and what might have been real. Meghan and Harry once seemed like the future of the monarchy, modern, bold, defiant. But now, they're the subject of whispered investigations, vanished records, and a growing sense of betrayal. The questions swirling around Meghan's pregnancies have gone from internet conspiracy to palace crisis. And the consequences could be enormous. If even a portion of these rumors turn out to be true, if the bump was fake, if a surrogate was hidden, if royal traditions were quietly discarded, then we're talking about a breach so deep it could rock the foundation of royal legitimacy. And let's be clear, the palace knows it. That's why they've stopped protecting. That's why titles are being reconsidered, archives rechecked, and relationships frozen. What once looked like a family feud now looks more like a Cold War, one fueled by control, image, and a scramble to contain the damage. The saddest part? The people most caught in the crossfire aren't Meghan, Harry, or even the crown. It's the children. Archie and Lilibet, whether born naturally or through surrogacy, now carry the weight of a story that's no longer theirs. This isn't just about fake bumps, vanishing photos, or missing records. It's about truth. How much we're allowed to know, and how far people will go to keep it hidden. Because when a fairy tale starts to fall apart, the real story always finds a way to surface. And for the royal family, that moment might be now.